What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Blue River Bow Hunting Podcast, episode 144. Hope everybody's having a good week out there. Hopefully you survived. If you're anywhere close to where I am, you survived the blizzard, as I'm calling it. I got like 14 and a half inches at my house. It was one for the ages for sure, but like to shout out a couple sponsors before we get going. Local 18, if you're looking for a career in the building trades, look up insulators.org. B&B Custom Calls out of West Virginia. My buddy Michael Hawks building some awesome calls from out there. Go check him out. Tell him I sent you. But I'm actually really looking forward to this episode. It's been planned for what seems like a month now. But Gavin from Whitetail Bloodline, what's going on, man?
What's going on, brother, man? I appreciate you getting me on. It's been a while since we've gotten a podcast, and yeah, we just got through all that snow too. We got 10 inches, which down south, because I'm in southern Indiana, a little south from you, and 10 inches is a lot here. It shut down pretty much everybody for a few days around
Yeah,
here.
and it was so cold. Like even if like the road, which I live on a county road, even if they hit it a little bit in my driveway a little bit, it was so cold that it turned into just straight. It was just like brick. It was so
Yeah.
hard underneath of it. And then they're calling for even more like next week. I think like another 7 inches or something. I'm like, I'll never get out of here.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. I hope not. You guys get a little more than we do usually, being up a little more north than us. But I
Yeah.
live right by the interstate. I'm like 5 minutes maybe from the interstate. So once I live in an apartment now, but once I get out of the apartment's the worst part, and then I'm basically straight highway to work. So it's not too bad other than that. But getting out of this apartment's a little tricky sometimes.
Oh, for sure. Well, for somebody that don't know you or Whitetail Bloodlines, man, introduce yourself a little bit.
Yep, I'm Gavin Sodders. Started the Whitetail Bloodline back in 2020. I've always had a passion for hunting. Got brought up. I'm a second generation bow hunter. My dad started doing it with my mom's family. Her family hunted their whole lives, and they're out west Utah. I was actually born in Utah. I moved away from there when I was like 1 years old and headed towards Indiana. Lived here majority of my life. Moved around. Lived in South Dakota a little bit, Virginia for some years, and then came back to here. So my roots are here in Indiana. I've done a lot of hunting here. My dad used to carry me in a climber from like 5 years old. Wrap my arms around his neck. He'd climb up what I thought would be like 15, 20 feet. And he tells me it's like 5 feet. But when you're that small, it feels pretty high, you know?
Yeah.
But,
That's awesome. So you got into the outdoors through your dad?
yep. My dad, and my uncle. My uncle moved around. It's my mom's baby brother. He moved with us because my dad was in the wood fixture industry, and he was like a manager and stuff. And he would get a better offer, so we'd move around. And he, her little brother, my uncle Jared, he was a CNC operator, and he just followed my dad around. And I actually hunted more with my uncle than on my dad, because my dad was higher up, so he couldn't get out as much as my uncle could. And so, yep, those two are the guys that gave me my passion for sure.
And that's such a different, going from one extreme to that, going from Utah to Indiana to, I think didn't you say Virginia too at some point when
Yep,
we talked
yeah,
to you before?
I killed my biggest buck in Virginia. I killed a lot of deer in Virginia just because it was a $3 state for one. But
Right. How does that compare, hunting? I've never really talked to that many people, I don't think, that's hunted Virginia. I've talked to some turkey hunters from Virginia, but deer hunting wise, I feel like it would be a whole nother beast than tackling Indiana.
it is. I got a different upbringing, and I think it's actually taught me a lot. Like, gets a bad rap. They did some dog hunting out there, and we were part of this big
Yeah.
hunting club. But the cool thing was everybody was just pure gun hunters and dog hunters. So for in Virginia, it was archery, and then it was muzzleloader in early muzzleloader season, and then your gun came in. So we had that archery to muzzleloader all by ourselves on a few hundred acres. And I wish I knew what I knew now, because there were some giants on those properties, bunch of cutover type properties. We had some wooded areas and stuff like that. And Virginia's actually, like, I'd say Indiana's a sleeper state, because all the states that surround us, everybody talks about them, and like all the big bucks are killed around us. Indiana's definitely got some big bucks. I would say Virginia's number two on a sleeper state. Like
Really?
every single year. Oh yeah, every year we killed some big bucks in our hunting club, for sure.
I've never heard anybody say that. Which you listen to other shows and you see socials and stuff, and I feel like you always hear like the conversation like my state is the hardest state to hunt. I
Yeah.
feel like if you were talking about Virginia, I feel like it would be hard. The parts that I've been through, don't even know. I was coming back from a NASCAR race and drove through there, but like the terrain, I couldn't even imagine. I'm a flatlander, where I
Yeah.
hunt and where I'm from, it is completely flat. There may be a little bit of elevation change, but nothing like that. I mean, those were pure mountains where I was driving through.
Yeah, right where I lived in Virginia, we were like right around the mountains. We didn't hunt the mountains. We hunted in Louisa County, which was it's got some rolling hills and stuff, but it's not quite like that mountain stuff because I went and hunted in Kentucky out of state and some of that mountain terrain. And I personally think that's the hardest whitetails to hunt is in those like more mountain bucks. So I didn't get into that a whole lot. I did slightly. We stayed more on the bottoms. I'm like you. I'm more of a flatlander. Down where I'm at in southern Indiana, though, we get a little more rolling hills. But Virginia was just like a lot of cutovers. There was not much ag at all there. There was a little bit of ag. Some of the properties had a little bit of cornfield and maybe some soybeans, but it was just a big timber state. There were always timber and stuff, so it was real thick. And the running dogs thing, man, it gets a lot of bad rap, which I wouldn't want it here in Indiana. Don't get me wrong. I had a blast.
Right.
I had a blast doing it when I was doing it in my younger years because I was probably, I don't know, 14, something, 12, 14 when we moved there. Or I was like 10 because I killed my first deer there when I was 11. And I think I was like 11 or 12 when we got in that hunting club. But the thing about the running dogs, and I think it taught me a lot because I got good friends with a guy. His name was Farmall. He was the one that had the dogs and ran the whole thing. And I would get the dogs sometimes, and you walk with the dogs, and they stick around you for a while. You try to put them into an area where you think the deer are going to be, and then they get on a track, they start smelling them and running them. But that just taught me where the deer were because you can hear the deer running, you can hear the dogs barking at them. So I think it kind of gave me a fast track of where like deer like to bed and stuff. And I think
Mhm.
that's one thing a lot of people don't think about, and I think it's helped me out a lot throughout the years. It's just it's like a fast pace because you're sitting down for 3 hours and you move, so you find out where these deer are bedding all the time pretty quickly.
That's awesome, man. I never, could get into the dog thing. I probably never really been around it much. Like you
Yeah,
said, if they were trying to do it here, I'd be like, please, please, no, please,
yeah, I wouldn't want it on my property. No
no.
way.
No, for sure. But like, I think it would be a cool thing to experience. I've seen some videos and stuff. That's about as far as I've seen it. But around here, a lot of when we were younger, we ran coon dogs and stuff back in the day. Just running trap lines and stuff like that. I feel like you talking about the dog stuff. I feel like that whole thing is like disappeared from where I'm
Yeah,
from. Like in high
yeah,
school, it was nothing for us to check our traps before school, and you'd see 3 or 4 other guys out, or guys were coming in from hunting all night to
yep.
go to school and stuff like that. But I feel like the dog stuff has definitely fell off around here. Maybe not necessarily waterfowl, but
Yeah.
definitely other stuff.
In Virginia, as far as I know too, because when we moved away, we went back one time. Because my favorite part about it, man, was the camaraderie. You'd meet up with all the guys. You sit there and BS with them for an hour before you even went out, and you didn't have to wake up super early, which was nice. You'd meet up right at daybreak and make a plan with all the guys. And we didn't have a huge hunting club, but sometimes, like opening morning, was always a bunch of us. But I love the camaraderie, and I was a young guy, so you knew the good spots. That's one thing. You're running dogs, it makes it easier. Don't get me wrong. They're running, but they're still wild deer. They're gonna go where they want. So out throughout the years, you just learn where these deer like to travel. And like me, my uncle, and like another young guy, we happened to get a lot more of the bucks and like the bigger bucks just throughout the years because we knew what spots to go to, and they're usually the spots way back, way by a swamp. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
that's what I miss about it because when I moved back here. I've hunted alone a lot. That's one thing I want to change this year is just to hunt with some more guys, do some out of state trips, get that camaraderie back. Because for the past about 10 years, I've been solo hunting a lot. I got my nephew that I've been bringing out since he was 7. He's just turned 18. So luckily, I got him and some other friends I'll go with every once in a while. But that was the best part of the dogs, man, was just the camaraderie. And it's definitely dying because when we went back, there wasn't many guys doing it, and it sounded like it's definitely dying out there in Virginia. The dogs running.
And it's crazy too. You said hunt club. Where I'm from, that's not really a thing. I see that more in the south, southeast. But what was it like being a part of a hunt club?
Oh, it was awesome. They called me Young Blood because I was a young kid, and they called my dad Indiana Jones because we came back from Indiana.
That's awesome.
And it was cool, man, because it was guys from, it was a couple guys younger than me, so there was kids from 8 to about 65. So just having all those years and just the BS, learning from them, like when they started hunting there, the OG guys, the older guys, they would be amazed to see a deer track. So it's cool just hearing from the old timers and hearing all those stories and how things have changed. And we were there for like 7 years, and we watched everything change because the first year they were there, they started. I think it was the first year started doing a huge cutover, And that first year kind of sucked because they knock everything down. But then the next 2, 3 years after that, when the growth happened, it was real good. There were just so many places for them to hide, and it was awesome, man. I got a lot of good memories. Like this one old dude, Art, he was a character. He could throw his voice, so he'd be walking in the woods. He was like, he called him Art. And he only had 4 toes on one finger. Shot him off with a turkey gun. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
He was a character and he could throw his voice. I've never met anybody who could do it like this. You'd be walking and he'd be like, hey, but under his breath, and it would sound like somebody's yelling like 100 yards away from you. And he's standing next to you and he'd be like, you hear that? And I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, somebody's out there. And he just kept doing it. It took me like a year to realize it was him. It was just, it was cool, just that part of it. And then you kill a deer, man, and you all shoot deer. You all meet up again. Everybody sees the bucks. Everybody's congratulating because a lot of time nowadays, it seems like people are like, "Oh, you need to let them walk. Give them another year." And out there, man, it was brown. It's down. If you didn't shoot that buck, they would get mad at you. Like, why'd you let that buck go by? We got to chase the dogs now. And you got $3 a year though, so man, the camaraderie was just cool, especially the whole different age gaps. And then when we'd end the night, we'd all go cut up all the deer and process them all ourselves, and learned how to gut a deer from Farmall. That man could gut a deer. I get kid you not in 20, 30 seconds max. Like I learned
Wow.
how to do that from him, and I knew how to gut deer, but he taught me the quick way. And it's just learned a lot from them OGs that have been doing it for their whole lives.
I'd say that's something that I definitely miss. I grew up hunting with my dad and uncle too, and now being 30 some years old, they're not around to hunt. I
Yep.
hunt with them, so I don't have that older guy to talk to. So when I do trips for everything, deer, turkey, but one of
Yep.
my favorite trips is to West Virginia to my buddy Troy's place. And I think that's one of my favorite reasons why I go there, because every Saturday night on the weekend that I go, he has all these people playing guitars and stuff, and they're all old timers are telling stories about them chasing rabbits with beagles back in the
Yep.
70s and stuff. Like just hearing that kind of stuff and enjoying a beverage with them, that's a cool thing that a lot of kids are going to miss out on growing up and hunting.
Yeah, it didn't. I don't know about you, but when I was young, man, it's just like the hunting culture in Indiana. It just seemed different. It seemed
Mhm.
like on opening weekend, or even like during the whole gun season, you'd go there and somebody'd have a deer in the back of their truck at every gas station you went to, and just seemed like we had a lot more hunting, and it was just different. Like we got some good bucks now, but maybe it's because I was young and there's the managing and bucks are getting bigger and everything, but it just seemed different. Like I don't know if it's just nostalgia from remembering stuff, but I remember seeing some giants when I was young.
For sure. I remember, I think I've told this story on here before, but this far buck on the far end here shot him when I was 17, and I couldn't wait to get this thing to the check station. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have the biggest, baddest buck in the truck today, boys. We get
yeah,
there, and there was like a crowd around this one truck, and I'm like, oh gosh, this ain't good. We roll up, it was literally our county record, 210 or whatever it is
really.
now, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even pop the tailgate. Like I just went and checked it in, come back, put the tag on it, and check
Yeah,
that guy's deer out. But seeing a deer like that up close can really put in perspective how big they can get. I mean,
yeah,
anything over 200 inches in my book that's just an absolute monster.
yeah. For almost every guy, it's a once in a lifetime deer, especially most of your Indiana hunters, at least. And yeah, it was good times, man. I was like, it's good hunting now. Like I managed my parents' property. It was the last year to hunt it more than likely, and that was fun too. There's a whole different side of it, but the camaraderie, and I forgot about the check-in stations.
Those
Like I
were
think
so much fun, man.
Yeah, I think that ended like a year or two after we moved here the second time, like my junior, senior year of high school. I'm 31 now, so yeah, it was cool just going there and just seeing everybody's deer. And
Yeah.
one way we kind of get that now, like I'll take my deer to a processor a lot of time just
Yeah.
because I don't want to deal with it. And it's kind of like that check-in station because you're checking in your deer to get them processed. And opening day of gun, if you get one on there, I mean, there's a line of cars, and that's kind of, you get that same feeling a little bit around here because there's one great processor and everybody goes to around me. And so you kind of get that cool that feeling for that.
I was just thinking about this the other day that you said that, as far as like the opening weekend of gun, this year, I'm Blue River bow hunting, right? But I do so much other stuff too. And you've killed your deer with the bow. Yeah, but it's just something about the opening weekend. We had buddies in from Tennessee that were coming up. We had the chili cook off the night before. Like we had just like this whole, like you say, camaraderie of guys and stuff. And it was like, I'm going out with a bang this year, boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was just part of everybody having fun, and I wouldn't take anything back just because of the weapon that I had. I'm still going to enjoy myself.
Yeah, I love bow hunting. Don't get me wrong; it's my favorite. but especially being on my parents' 27 acres, because that's the only place I hunted basically the past 2, 3 years. Because I thought they were going to lose it last year and sell it, or not lose it, sell it, and then they got one more year and they're going to put it on the market this year. So I spent all my time on that. I would usually hunt some public land and stuff around me because we got a boatload of public land around me. But
Yeah.
to put all my eggs in that basket just to shoot one buck, and I went tagless for 3 years in Indiana. Shot one in Kentucky public, but once opening day of gun comes, I'm breaking that Remington 700 308 out and giving my shot or chance to get that shot off a little easier because it's only 27 acres and a lot of guys hunt around me. And the buck I shot before, the buck I shot this year, he busted out at 125 yards saw him for about 10 seconds and put him down. And with a bow, that'll never happen. So I love hunting with a bow, but sometimes I'm gonna break the rifle out if I have to.
Oh, for sure. Especially that opening day. Everybody's pushing them
Yeah,
around where I
that's what
live, you
happened. The
know.
neighbor pushed that buck right to me.
Yeah. I always got in, and I think it honestly helped me kill my deer this year. I got in earlier than I normally would, even if I was bow hunting, because I
Yeah.
knew that those guys were going to be pushing those deer around. And if I could get them close and, me not screw it up, they at least would be somewhat close to me and then potentially move or chase a doe or whatever. But I shot mine like the first 5 minutes of light, and he had come running in from the north like somebody had jumped him. So I was like, "Oh, here we go." I never saw that buck the entire year. Never had a
Mhm.
picture of him. Nothing. Opening day, he comes out of nowhere, and I kill him.
Yep, that's how it was. I talked to this kid because I had permission on the neighbors that he hunted, but he was hunting a lot of it, so I didn't mess with it a whole lot. I was like, "You can have that whole side." It's like, "Give me this little bottom 5 acres," just because I hunted for years. And that kid ended up he got permission to hunt there because he followed me on Facebook and saw my social media, and I post a
Oh,
lot. I probably shouldn't. That's the only time it's ever happened to me. But my land's kind of landlocked with neighbors, because so I didn't really care, and it's just I post that way to teach people things throughout the season. And yeah, he ended up getting permission. He was like, "Oh, I just happened. My wife works with blah blah blah." I was like, "Dude, I see you like my stuff." I was like, "The
all
odds of
right.
that just happening," but I wasn't that mad. He wasn't the smartest hunter, which kind of hurt me. But he had that buck at like 15 yards, and it caught him off guard. He wasn't ready, and then spooked that buck right to me. And I had 3 years of history with him. I called him homeboy just because bunch of pictures of him so like all year long, and that was the first time I ever saw him with my eyes, which happens a lot around here for how much high pressure we have. And over the past like 13 years, our property's gotten way better. We've been managing and stuff, but wouldn't see very many mature bucks. To start off on hay fields, but now we got a bunch of CRP and stuff, so we hold them a little better. But you usually get one crack, maybe two cracks at a good buck. And the past few years, I think we're like 4 for 4 in 4 years on 27 acres on bucks at least 4 years old or older, which is pretty damn good for 27 acres.
Absolutely. That's pretty incredible 4 for 4 like that.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about hunting public. You said that you kind of have transitioned to that, going out of state, even doing it at home. Like,
Yep.
where did you start on your approach? Like, okay, I'm going to just jump into this, or what were you thinking when you were trying to do it?
I think I'm like a lot of guys, man. I just wanted more access to more land than the hunting public guys. That's what got me onto it. Saw
Hmm.
them doing it. I was like, I feel like I could probably do it. So I started off. I don't. I might have started off on Indiana, but went out of state with a buddy in Kentucky. And what I do, usually I scout. I use Onyx. They make a
Same.
bunch of good apps, and then I just sit there, man. I couldn't tell you how many countless hours I've spent on eScout and looking at it, and I like look at big chunks. But one thing I like to do is look at an overlooked smaller chunk, especially if it's not too far, so I can get there on the weekends or uh, just something closer to home. And that's how I started as eScouting. Try to look at all the access points. That's one thing I do. You can zoom in with all these 3D features, and it might not say it's a parking spot, but you can usually tell if there's like a pull off. So I'll start doing that, find some spots I'm interested in, and then I'll just go put some boots on the ground, put a full day. And usually I'm just walking quick. And when I started doing it, it was like the springtime, early spring was the first year I did it. And you can still see some pretty good sign. It's better to go about it this time so you can still see this year's sign. And
Right.
especially if there's some snow, you can see some tracks and stuff. But I think eScouting's a good way to go. You can learn a lot from eScout nowadays, just with how good the maps are. You can even look online to see like the deer kill numbers in counties. That thing helps, and see what
Yeah,
counties are the
absolutely.
best for producing big bucks. But I got this one spot in Kentucky. It's about an hour away from me, and it's a little honey hole, man. That was my first year me buying a tag. I went with another buddy. We went and scouted some like mountainous, like mountain range Kentucky ground, and that was hard. That's the hardest stuff I've ever scouted.
Same. The
Hardest.
hardest I've ever hunted for sure.
Yep, hunted. We went a couple times, got skunked. So finally found this swamp. It's like a river bottom swamp country, bunch of like little ponds and swamp country, and I scouted the crap out of that. Went and put half a dozen cameras on that. Found some good areas, and I'm different than a lot of guys. I'm not the best early season hunter. That's what I want to get better in the future. Is that we went and hunted that year after scouting a bunch. Didn't get a whole lot of big bucks on camera early season, and then this was before cell cameras were real big and they were real good, so they didn't have like the best service and stuff. But
Hmm.
we went in that early September frame, hunted with two different buddies, and we ended up jumping up a buck. I called him Seabiscuit. I got a picture of him like a week before season came in. I think season came in September 4th that year. We hunted him. We're hunting way back in the property where we saw him, and then as we're walking in, we see all these droppings on some acorns and look like some buck turds. And if you know what a buck turd looks like, it's a little bit bigger, and it's they're kind of more clumped up all the time. I'm sure does do it too, but a lot of them bucks are like that. And we saw that sign, so like, let's sit right here. And we climb up in this little pine tree, jump that buck up. He's sitting there watching us the whole time at about 35 yards.
Oh wow.
Yep. And
we
then,
I've been to Kentucky a couple times, and it was all that opening weekend, Labor Day weekend there for a few years. And I feel like, so many people want to shoot a velvet, right? Of course, I do
yep,
too. I've yet to do
yep.
it, so I want to do it too. But like, I feel like Kentucky could be really good at like that late November to early December. I feel like you could really, maybe not as many people in the woods, maybe, or whatever, pressure wise, or they've already been through the pressure. But I feel like Kentucky would be a good like late season spot.
Yep, I left my cell cameras on Kentucky, and I'll vouch for that because they have that late season muzzleloader season. I could have tagged out again that same year I shot my buck. I mean, countless bucks. And that piece I went, it got a lot of pressure, like you're saying, that opening weekend. And even
Mhm.
that first week of November, I killed him on November 8th in Kentucky. That's my favorite day. I killed my buck this year on November 8th too. So I went back to back
Nice.
bucks on November 8th. But I learned real quick, these most guys aren't walking far, especially in that heat when it's sticky and in the mornings and early season in Kentucky, it's wet, man. You better have something that's got a little water resistant on your legs or something because you're going to get soaked, especially where I was at, was in this river bottom. So if you're close to the river, I mean, these weeds were some of them over 10 foot tall. So
I know exactly where you. Uh, we hunted some stuffs very similar to that. Of course, they drug me back a couple miles deep, and it was 98 degrees and all this. Uh, th- but the bugs, man, the bugs is
oh
what
yeah,
got
the
me. If you
mosquitoes
didn't
too.
have a thermocell,
Yeah.
you might as well not even go.
Yeah, and that was the hardest hunting I've ever done, man. For the heat, just being wet when you're walking in, the bugs, the thermocell seemed like it didn't even help that much. It helped. Don't get me wrong, but they were still eating
Yeah.
you alive, and that it humbled me because I was like, we're gonna go get us a velvet buck first year, man, guaranteed. And
Right.
no, we saw a couple does and jumped up that buck. And the funny thing is, that was the only buck that I had on camera the whole time that got me excited. I ended up shooting that buck on the property next to it, but these properties I was hunting weren't big. They were like from two of them connected, and they had like a, I don't want to say something, it'll give it away to kind of the property,
Right. You
but
don't have to
they,
do all
they
that.
connected in a way, and it was less than 3 miles across both these properties, and actually there was like three that connected. And I bet it was less than 3 miles, 4 miles, so it was smaller chunks, but it was thick, river bottom, swampy. A lot of guys just didn't want to hunt it, but these guys weren't walking a half a mile in. And where I ended up shooting my buck, it was less than a mile. I think it was like 0.85 miles, and that was center of the property, and it just happened to be a good transition zone.
One thing that I've learned, hunting Kentucky, Missouri, I think there's even some counties in West Virginia that are like this. I love the bow only public
Yep.
land spots.
Yep.
Like, I wish we could do that in like bigger chunks, especially
Yep.
down there by you, Hoosier National. Can you imagine if they took 500 or 800 acres and turned it into bow only? That place would be incredible.
Yep, that's one thing I did look for too. That place I was hunting was bow only and muzzleloader. You could break out a muzzleloader for muzzleloader season, but it was bow only, and that helped a lot.
We
You
might
know,
have to talk about this off air. I think we may have hunted the same place.
yeah, it's a good place, man. Like I went, I've told buddies because I didn't hunt this year. I guarantee if I went back to that same tree, I'd kill him because I went back for my rutcation, and I think it started on November 4th. Went in, and it was the time change that day, actually, and I didn't know it was a time change. So we're getting in, it's getting light before we even get to the property. I'm like, what's going on, dude? As we're pulling up, and then we both realized, dude, it's a time change. So we get in late that morning, and we're like, dude, let's go scout it. Because when we went in there, there was certain parts of it, the CRP, like I wasn't gonna walk through. I was not even gonna scout it in the summer, and in like September, it was just too thick. But when we got back there, it blew my mind how much it changes once the cold hits and everything kind of dies off. So I was like, I've never walked through here, dude. I was like, it looks good. I said, I know there's some bucks in there, and we walked through the CRP and didn't bump nothing. We get right to the other edge. There's some wood, CRP, and then some more woods, and jump up this big nasty mature buck. He wasn't the hugest thing, but you could tell he was a great buck. For a public land buck, I was tickled to death. So we watched him for a while, sat there, took a nap, then I was like, let's go set up where that buck left. So we saw him from about 300 yards away and went down this creek. I was like, he's over there somewhere. I was like, I bet he went and bedded. So I was like, there's another road beyond that, and it's a thick area over there. I was like, I bet he beds. And I was like, I've heard about the bump and dump, and they'll end up coming back. I was like, let's try it. Heard that from like Cody DeQuisto, and I was like, it's gonna be my first time trying it. Public land. It's our first day. We came in late. I was like, let's go for it. So we set a double stand, and we hung it up that night, and we sit there, and right at last light, about the last 30 minutes, and see a doe, and you can, in that rut time, you can tell if it's a doe just coming through or something's behind her, and you can just tell how she's moving, coming right at us. I'm like, there's a buck behind her, dude. I was like, get ready. And I had the bow that day. My buddy's filming me, and this buck ends up coming to 35 yards. The first day of our hunt in the of our rutcation, just right in CRP, 35 yards, big mature buck. I'd say he's probably 6 year old buck. You could just tell he was worn down, and he could have even been older, that huge body. And that was our first day, and then we started learning the property after that. And each day we found a spot we wanted, put some cell cams up, started getting pictures. And we end up the CRP. They're all moving through that CRP in the mornings and then the evenings, like right before last light. Sometimes midday. It's the rut. So we got a couple cameras in some good spots. Started getting good intel, and we'd set up, watch them like the next night or next morning. Saw a couple does, and that night saw a few bucks chasing some does from a couple hundred yards away. So I was like, we need to move up. So we moved up to a tree, sat there. I think that morning and night saw a few deer, and actually we put a cell camera up, and you could see my tree stand hanging in the tree right behind it because we went to go get lunch. Shouldn't have did that on like this was like November 7th. I think this was a couple days into it, so this is like November 7th, and a buck bigger than the one I shot for sure comes right by as we're lunch. Like my buddy's taking a nap, I'm half asleep. My phone goes off with my cell camera. Big nasty buck walking right by it. I mean, right broadside, right by our tree. So I was like, hey, all right, let's go. We go in there, climb in the tree, and I think we saw another shooter buck. We saw at least one shooter buck every day of our trip, and we were just moving
Wow.
closer, moving closer. We finally get to the spot I want, and there's one tree. It's right on the edge of the CRP. Great transition area coming from ag field that's on the private. They cross the river, and they go into the CRP just to bed to get away from everybody because nobody usually goes that far. Nobody ever hunts that CRP. It's too thick. So I mean, we're like 10 yards off the CRP. We're on the one big tree. It's all other trees you couldn't even hunt out of. You'd had to sit on the ground. So we're kind of sticking out. We thought like a sore thumb. And my buddy it's the rut. He has his own property. So he's like, I think I'm gonna hunt my property today. I was like, dude, it's gonna go down. I was like, it's your morning to hunt. I was like, you need to come out here and kill one of these bucks because every morning a buck went right by that stand just on our cell camera. And if you know having cameras out, you're not going to get every deer. So who knows what
Right.
was going through, not where that camera was. And one thing actually that last night we hunted was funny, and with my bow. When I have my portable stand, I have one of those bow holders that sit on it. Bump my bow off the tree
Oh
stand.
wow.
It hits the ground, shoots my arrow like 20 feet in the air. And we're like an hour away from home. Had to walk all the way back in the dark. I forgot to shoot my bow that night and make sure everything was good. So I climb up the next day. I come there by myself. It's the first day of the trip. I come back by myself, and I just had that feeling. You never had that feeling
Oh
when you
yeah.
just climb up in the tree, and I already had my stand sitting there and two sticks, and just had to put two more sticks to climb up because didn't want to haul it out of there. I want to sneak in as good as I could. The wind was good, and climbed up there. And first light had a little buck, little 4 point come walking by. And then almost every deer I shoot, it catches me off guard. Even if I'm like paying attention, it's just like by the time I see him a lot of time, because in this area, I'm hunting pretty thick, and this buck's already at about 60 yards, walking right at me. So I'm like, oh shit. And it's a shooter to me. I saw him, I was like, yep, that's a shooter. And just from hunting a long time, I can usually almost always tell instantly if I'm going to shoot a buck or not. It's just been doing it
Oh
long
yeah.
enough. and he's walking right at me, and I'm sitting pretty high. I'm probably sitting at least 15, 20 feet in this tree, and I'm sticking out like a turd in a punch bowl kind of. Luckily, I have a little bit of have a little bit of backdrop behind me, not a whole lot, just because it was the one tree, and I wanted to be a little higher just because it was kind of open. It was in that like swampy land where it floods, so it doesn't get a lot of vegetation in this little area. And this buck walks right towards me, gets to about 20 yards, looks up right at me. The old like starts doing the head bob. I'm like, oh crap! I'm sitting still, and luckily my stand's kind of facing almost towards him, so I had the backdrop of the tree, and the tree's about as wide as my body. Probably not quite as, but I think I was turned like that to my a little bit, so it probably did blend me into that tree pretty well. And he kind of knew something was up, and I'm self filming. Luckily, I got all this on self film, and
That's awesome.
get and guess where the gap was? And I had one gap because all these trees. I mean, it's a bunch of teeny trees. I was like, when he gets there, I'm gonna have to stop him. And hits this one gap, and he's trying to get downwind of me to smell me. And he's gonna work around, and he hits that gap, and I just happen to stop him perfect, a split second before he does, and he didn't stop instantly. Took like one step, broadside, and drew back, and I didn't know it at the time, but I hit a limb right above me, like a teeny little limb.
Oh man.
Luckily, it didn't mess my arrow up that bad. I might have shot over him honestly because I didn't. I was using a one pin. Didn't really have time to range him. I range a lot while I'm in the stand though, where I think deer are gonna go. So I range a bunch of different areas. So I knew I was like, he's probably about 20 to 25 yards, and he was at 25 yards. Drew back and hit him. And the best part about filming, man, is you can see your shot and you can see where you hit him. And hit him not real high, but a little high. But I'm sitting so high in the tree, I'm like, it had to have probably got top of that first lung and center punch that second lung. And I watched him tear through the CRP, and he's jumping, bounding, and then he disappeared. So then I called my buddies after that, and I start freaking out after. I'm usually pretty calm and collected in the moment, but right after the shot, like I got it on my Instagram and stuff, and I start shaking real bad after it. Like ended up having to sit down and went and got a little blood and walked to the edge of the CRP. Had a little bit of blood, and it looked bubbly, looked like some lung blood. And called a couple buddies, called my buddy Dylan and Corey, and like, you guys come help me find this deer. And I didn't want to bump him. And then I'm walking out, and there's one tree stand. This old climber dude leaves his climber in the tree stand. I don't know if he brings sticks or what he does,
What the heck?
but I have to walk right under his tree stand the way I walk in, just for the winds and everything. And I walk in there, and there's a crossbow sitting in the stand. He wasn't there when I walked in the morning, but his crossbow was sitting there. And I'm looking around, and then I'm freaking out kind of. I'm like, this dude, because the deer when I watched, it
Shot
looked
your
like he
deer
ran
after you
right
shot
to
it.
me. Yeah, I was like, he's either got my deer or he shot my deer. So I'm freaking out and thinking the worst. So I sit down right there. I'm like, I'm not going to my truck. And luckily, my buddy Dylan, he was the one hunting with me, so he knew the area I was in. So I'm sitting there, and it took about 2 hours because I was about an hour drive, yeah, or 2.5 hours for them to get there. And they finally get there, and I'm glad they did, man, because I'm usually pretty damn good at tracking blood, but something about that CRP, I couldn't see it. So I'm grid searching off of where they're on blood, and I'm just grid searching, and here's some blood, here's some blood. It helps a lot to have a couple guys,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's thick CRP, so we're looking for probably 45 minutes. We're on blood steadily for the first 75 yards, 50 yards, and then we're in that CRP. It was hard to find it. So I was like, let's go to the end of the CRP where he had to have probably went, and let's see if we can pick up blood because I went to a like grassy area right out of the CRP. So we're looking for blood, and I never saw that guy. That was a weird thing either. I was there for 2.5 hours. Ended up after sitting there for an hour. See, he had a dead doe sitting on the ground, which kind of had me worried. Not to like
Right.
not to go off the subject, but I was like, did dude like have a heart attack and die? Because after us dragging out, and he was parked where we ended up, where I was parked too, and never saw this dude.
That's
So
weird.
I didn't even think about calling anybody or nothing. But yeah, he had a dead doe sitting there, so he didn't go after my buck. I was like, it made me think better, but I'm still freaking out. And we're sitting there, we lost blood, and then right on the edge of the CRP, we're looking, don't see blood, and this buck died. I mean, in the thickest briar patch, right on the edge of it. Like I looked at this buck. I'm not kidding. Like we thought he had to have went like right through here, but we thought he made it to the grass, and he just jumped and he dove right into a briar patch. I mean, like them like real thick spots, like a big old ball of
Yeah,
briar. And it looked like he was alive because he was in such thick stuff. His head was just looked like he was bedded down. His head was standing straight up because he
that's
was in
wild.
such thick stuff. But we ended up finding that buck, man, and that was my first Kentucky public land buck. Got it all on film. First year ever doing it. The buck I jumped in September. First buck I had on trail camera that I got excited about. Uh, right before season started, jumped him up, and then it went full circle. And actually, my buddy had a cell camera, Then got him on a picture the night before I shot it too, and I didn't know that because I took him scouting the first time I ever went scouting, and he left his camera. And then after I shot, he's like, "Dude, I think I had your buck on camera last night," and ended up having him on camera the night before, and went full circle and kind of had full history with a buck my first year doing it, which is pretty rare, and it was pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool, man. And Kentucky, it kind of has a different feel too. I basically grew up turkey hunting in Kentucky. We had some property and some family had some land down there, and you could go door knock on some of these older farm couples back in the day, and they'd give you permission to turkey hunt right off the bat. They're like,
Yep,
go kill all of them. And back,
yep,
well, what about this fall? Can I deer hunt too? Oh no, so no,
yep.
son, you
People
can't.
hate turkeys. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either, but it was like I was trying to sleep with his wife or something when I asked him deer
Yeah.
hunt. Like their deer hunting is it's a pretty big culture too. It's just a little bit different in its own right. You know what I
Yep, yep,
mean?
yep, for sure. And that buck was cool. I got him on the wall in the other room. They're all in my living room. All my bucks are. And I mean, I got that buck I shot last year. He's right behind me, but
Nice.
he was cool. He was like them swamp bucks. They're kind of gray. He was super gray, and he was the stinkiest buck I've ever smelled in my life. I don't know if it was just being in the swamp and the stuff they ate, but that buck,
Probably.
man, you couldn't get the stench off your hands. I swear to God.
Phew, that's rough. Talk a little bit about Whitetail Bloodline. Like, what made you start it? How did you come up with what you were gonna do?
Uh, Man, I've always had a passion for it. Going back to Virginia days, my old YouTube and everything, not so much the Instagram, but YouTube goes back 17 years or something like that. And it was called Cub Creek Outdoors because we were the Cub Creek Hunting Club.
Nice.
And then I wanted to get more serious. And if you pay attention, I'm used to watch all the hunting content and all that. So I was like trying to come up with a good name. And I started talking with a bunch of buddies. I was like, let's start this, man. I was like, start filming our hunts, produce some content. Let's try to do something with this. It's always been my passion. And about that time in 2019ish, 2020, people started taking off, and you could actually kind of like you might be able to do something with this, make a career out of it, kind of stuff. Because the hunting public guys came out. You got your Seek One, you got all your other big names. I was trying to think of a good name, and I honestly don't even remember how the Whitetail bloodline came apart. I think I was just thinking about my bloodline and like my family bloodline and what it meant to me. And then I just met BS with a bunch of buddies coming up with names, and the Whitetail Bloodline just hit me. And I just had a passion for it, and I wanted to help people. I didn't do it. I would love to make this a career one day. It's pretty hard, but I just did it for my pure love out of it, and I didn't start off doing it for the money. I still don't do it for the money. I got some sponsors and stuff now, which helps out. Get some free gear and makes my season a little cheaper doing that. But I just did it for my passion. I was like, I've been doing this for 20 years now, so I was like, see if I can just teach some guys stuff. And the way I do my content, I kind of do it in season. I do a bunch of the off season scouting, and I show a lot. Like in my season, I show the bucks that are showing up on trail camera, which is pretty stupid. A lot of people say like I never until the past couple years though we never had some giants. This past 2 3 years we've got some giants on my parents' property. So I was like, I don't think anybody's gonna come try to poach my deer or sneak up on it. And it's a hard property, but I just want to teach some guys stuff. Like I'm not the most knowledgeable. I'm one of those guys where I think you should never think you're the best at it. You should always like want to learn from people. So I started a podcast, the Whitetail Bloodline podcast, for that reason too. I just want to learn from other guys because I know what I
Absolutely.
do. I'm pretty good at what I do, I feel like, but there's a lot of different ways to do it. So that's kind of what I want to do, and want to talk to some older guys. And I had some straight killers on my podcast through the years, and it definitely made me a better hunter because you might not use everything everybody says, but if you can learn a little bit and from a bunch of different people, and then you can put that into your own like hunting situations, because every situation is different, no matter where you're at, what you're doing, what a buck's doing. If you just have you've learned a lot from other guys, I think it'll help you in the long run, you know.
For sure. That's one of my favorite things about doing a podcast. Most of the time they're like, don't you get burnt out on, doing a show? No, because I get
Yep.
so the variety of people is so wide from Indiana to Kentucky to wherever,
Yep.
just if you can just open your ears and listen to what works for people, and apply it in your own sense, maybe even in your own way, the way you like to do it or whatever, it can make you honestly, it can make you a killer for sure.
Yeah, I think like kids nowadays, your guys that are in your early 20s and stuff, they got a lot easier than me and you did.
Oh,
Because
for
when we were
sure.
young, we had Drury Outdoors, Real Tree, and that
Primos.
kind of stuff. Yeah, Primos, those videos, and they didn't really teach you a whole lot. I mean, they did, don't get me wrong, but those were more just like killing videos. And so, and he had some books. I wasn't a reader, so I read a
Yeah,
few books, but I wasn't going to read a lot of books. But nowadays, man, with YouTube and podcasts, it just gives them an easier jump to learn, and you can learn how to archery shoot. Like you kind of had to teach yourself everything from when we were kids, or you learn from your dad and my uncle or some of the OGs, but it was just a different world back then.
for sure. The learning curve,
Yeah.
it's like how to sight in a one pin dial sight,
Yep.
go on YouTube and you
Yeah.
look up the stupidest stuff too, like how to change a light bulb on a '01 Cavalier or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep. Everything's on YouTube, man. I got to
right.
replace my mirror, and I didn't know you had to go from the whole inside. And I looked up a video on YouTube, and there's step by step how to do that whole thing.
Yeah. And I feel like, say we had done it, like when YouTube was a first, a thing out of high school or in college or, something like that. Maybe you get a step on it transitioning from the outdoor channel to the, the content creator space, but like the people I feel like that really do very, very well in that space is it's the way they approach their videos, right? They're
Yep.
relatable. You
Yep.
like them. You could be like, man, I could have a beer with that guy. You know what
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean? Man, I also, and I don't know, and not trying to be negative by any stretch of the imagination, but the search terms when somebody searches something, right? Like if
Yep.
you
For
Google
sure.
bow hunting whitetails or those, some of those videos are the first videos to pop up. So I feel like they're going to get more views than somebody like me or you,
Yep.
but like I think once those people find us or listen to us, that's when they, I wouldn't say fall in love with you, but like your personality. That's why they listen. You teach them something or you point
Yep.
something out or whatever, you're relatable to them and you don't act like you're the
Yep.
smartest guy on the planet Earth.
Yeah, that's honestly exactly why I started Whitetail Bloodline too. And on my first videos, it was like on my YouTube videos go back way back in the day. And YouTube was different back then because there wasn't a lot of people on it. My first video I ever did was called the Virginia Peanut Butter Feeder. And it was just a peanut butter jar and how to put it on a tree to make it a deer feeder. And that got like 900,000 views back then. And just
Nice.
yeah, it's just the traction was different. Now there's
Yeah.
everybody's creating content. When I started it, and I fell off throughout the years and stuff like that. But my whole passion and my whole way of doing my content was to it was just I'm an average guy. I'm a blue collar guy. I don't got a whole lot of money. Like don't get me wrong, if I was a millionaire, I'd be killing a lot bigger bucks and I'd be doing it more often. And that's the difference from me and a lot of guys. And it's just I would try to show everything. I try to show the good, the bad, the ugly. And if I can do it, that's like my whole point of like the white top line is like if I can do it, you can do it because I have to work, I have to have a job. I can get some more time off with the job I have now and stuff, but it's just I'm not full of money. I shoot a cheap bow. I shoot a PSE Stinger. I've shot that for 8 years. Bought one 2 years ago, the same bow from Bass Pro Shops. Just because I don't shoot a million arrows a year. Like I'm a guy I've shot for most of my life. My dad was a huge archery guy, and I had a bow back then, lobbing an arrow 50 yards like I'm in the medieval days, just trying to hit 50 yards.
Yeah.
And I just got that muscle memory to shoot and shoot a few times with my bow each year. But I'm not poking out at a whitetail at 50 yards. My whole passion is to try to get that deer to 30 yards or closer, and then it's kind of a chip shot at that point if you're good with your bow. It's just that's me, man. It's the blue collar and how, exactly what you said. It's just people gotta get a feel for you. I think one way people mess up on creating content is they just post only good things, like they're beautiful pictures when they shoot a buck. I'm posting stuff for people to know me. I feel like most of my followers don't know me, but I feel like they kind of know Gavin. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, it, that's a good point. Like there's so many times and I would have killed one of the biggest deer I've ever shot, for sure by a mile, a couple years ago, and I had to put the video out there. I mean, it was everything about the hunt was beautiful besides my shot,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's like I do, and I do shoot. I wouldn't say a lot,
Yeah.
maybe once every couple weeks or so.
Yeah. That's kind
Um,
of where I'm at. Yep.
the neighbors come over. The neighbor comes over, and a couple my cousins come over, and I have a little lane set up in the woods across the street, and we kind of almost play like pig with our bows, and
Yep.
shooting and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say I shoot every day or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I made a mistake, right? I
Yeah.
misjudged 10-ish yards that really affected my shot, so I wanted to put it out there. Did I want to puke after doing
Oh
it?
yeah.
Absolutely. And I even said that in the video, like I feel like I'm about to throw up. Like you only get so many chances, like you said, in a season or a lifetime. You
Yeah,
said a 200-inch deer is a lifetime buck. A 180 could be a lifetime buck for some people just on the property they hunt or
yeah.
whatever in the relatively,
I've never shot a
in your mind.
180. You know.
Me either. It would have been my first one, I can tell you that.
I've missed, man. I've in my younger days in Virginia. I've never missed a buck with a bow. Somehow, I've missed like 20 does with a bow, and I think a mature doe is the hardest deer to kill in the world. If you're shooting at it with a
Right.
doe, they can drop so much. But dude, I've missed some absolute giants. Like the last time I went back to Virginia, used this one dude's rifle, and would have been by far the biggest buck. He was at least a 100, probably 180-inch 10, and whiffed 3 shots at this buck at like 100 yards.
Oh,
just
wow.
just got buck fever, dude. I did that so many times in Virginia when we were like just have deer running across the field or trotting across the field, and then of course I had 3 bullets. That buck stops at 125 and just broadside, looking at me like, "Oh, you missed me, you idiot!" But yeah, I missed a bunch of them deer, and I've been lucky. I've only shot, I think I shot 4 or 5 bucks with a bow, and I've only drawn on them 4 or 5 bucks, and because where I hunt around here, I'm more of a rut hunter. I'm not the best early season hunter. I'm more of a rut guy. I'm a rut funnel guy. That's where like my bread and butter is. I just hunted that way my whole life, and that's where I feel the most comfortable. That's one thing I want to push myself this next year is to try to kill one in October. Because actually, I did kill. I killed my first, my biggest Indiana buck. Actually, he's a big 9 point, probably 130-inch, 135-inch 9 point. Killed him on October 1st. My first sit of the year.
Wow.
First sit of the
Unreal.
year, dude. Climbed up in a stand that climber I left there for years, and had all my cousins with me and set them up. It's hotter than balls in that first week
Oh,
of
it always
October.
is.
Yep, and I climb in this climber. I'm sweating, not expecting to see nothing. 30, 45 minutes of my hunt, I see movement. I'm like, oh, a doe? Opening day? I was like, let's go. And then huge buck. And on our property, it never happens, dude. And we never, especially during that time frame, never ever. This was 2017. Never saw a mature buck in early season. And this buck walks right under me. And he was maybe 10 yards, and I'm way up in a climber. I used to sit way too high in a climber, and it's not the most orthodox or the shots you want to take, but I don't get that many opportunities at a buck that big. So I was like, I'm going to have to spine shot this buck. And that's what I did. I spine shot that buck, and then he dropped him, and then I had to put another arrow in him. And it's just hunting ain't always rainbow and sunshine and rainbows. So
For
that
sure.
was my opportunity, and I was young, and luckily I made it happen. It's not the way I wanted to do it, but it's just
You
sometimes.
had to have been like super close to his bed to see him
Oh yeah, and it was
October
early too.
1st.
Like by the time I got back to the house, it was still light. Like it was crazy. I
Wow.
think he just got up because where I was sitting was on the edge of a ridge, and he walked right up the ridge. So I bet he was bedding on the edge, at the side of that ridge, or on the bottom of it, because there's a little creek that went there. I bet it was a little cooler. And I did notice one rub, and there were some good acorns to my right. And I think he just went up and just happened to be there at the right time. Didn't do any scouting that year. I knew the property, and that's the honey hole. I always call it a honey hole. I killed 2 bucks within 25 yards of that stand. But it's
Do you
just,
think people get almost tunnel vision when they hunt a particular place for a long period of time?
yep, oh, 100%. Me hunting my parents' property for 17 years, I overlooked so much. And then the past 2 years where I put all my eggs in my basket, I started realizing that. And then the deer, I learned were moving. They learn your movement for sure. Because we had our ladder stands that were in spots for sure, and they were skirting them. And I learned that this past year or two. And I was putting a little bit too much pressure on this 27 acres sometimes, I think, too. And the deer learn that, especially these mature bucks. They're either going to not deal with it, or they're going to leave, or they're going to learn how to scoot. Because the biggest buck I've had on camera this year, he would be 80 yards behind the house. That's where he would move. He would cut across the property right behind the back door, basically. And I think he just knew because we never hunted there.
That's wild, man.
Yeah,
I
he's a
love it.
huge standpoint. He's bigger than anything I got on the wall.
That's kind of what happened to me. I got tunnel vision for a long time, hunted the same stands all the time. Um, but then, starting this and talking to people a lot, and then saddle hunting and stuff like that, I just came into my own as far as moving, being mobile, and learning off what I see. It's not like that I was chasing them down, right? Like I had this one
Yep.
stand, and I've killed four deer over 130 out of this stand, so I know that they're there.
Yep, yep.
And they started to skirt me a little bit. Once was a pinch. One part of it was one side of it was a pinch point in the ag coming into bedding, so I knew that never was really going to change because they used to go down
Yep.
both sides, making rubs and scrapes and stuff. But I always saw the bigger deer on the inside corner, like 50 or 60 yards. And I'm like, why don't I hunt over there that much? It just never really clicked with me.
Same with
And then
me.
that's
Yep.
when I killed my buck this year. Yeah, and the year before that.
Yeah, the where I killed my buck this year, I called him JJ, and I was making a post right before we got on. I didn't realize I had history with this buck until after I shot him for like 2 months, and I'm going through pictures, and I've had pictures of this buck at least since 23 that I shot this year, and I killed him in a spot I never really hunted. It's close to the house. I'm like 125 yards from the house, and I was over pressuring it a lot, especially from the early days, and doing that. I had my nephew with me. Luckily, my nephew tagged out not this year, but the 2 years before that, opening day of youth season. Shot the biggest buck we ever killed on the property. 30 minutes into his hunt, his kids spoiled him for like 2 years in a row. He hunted less than an hour and a half and killed two mature bucks. But I did a
Wow.
bunch of food plots and stuff, and that was just new too. But the thing I learned about that property was better rut property. We'd get some early movement sometimes when I had food plots, but this year I didn't do any food plots. I was like, I'm just gonna try to hunt it and not overlook anything. Legit, like you said, because I was overlooking a lot, overlooking spots. Yeah, I didn't know my nephew was going in there early season. I was like, because I was getting deer on camera, and I'm like, where are all these deer at? And then I talked to him. He's like, yeah, I've hunted like 7 times already. I'm like, all right, stop hunting. I was like, you've killed 2 deer in the past. I was like, this is my last year. I was like, you can hunt after I shoot one. I was like, I'm gonna be that uncle. So I told him to stop hunting, and I stayed out of there, and killed him on the ninth sit. I think it was like 4 or 5 days, and I killed him on November 8th. But it was just overlooking and learning as I was going, not just sticking to my ways. Yeah, there's some bucks that moved through there. You killed some bucks over there, but I was learning as I was going, looking at fresh sign. And remember when I was walking out one day and saw this big 8 point. As I'm walking up to the house, I can see the house. Like I'm at like 100 yards from the house, and I look over and just happen to catch this buck going through the CRP. And I was like, I never even thought about him moving through right there. So after I thought about that, ran, put a camera on there, realized they're moving through there a bunch. And this was like November 3rd or 4th. Had this big, I think it was it might have been an 11 pointer with a kicker, 10 point with a kicker, and end up getting a picture of him on camera. And so I'm like, and saw where he was moving. I was like, I bet he's gonna bed there. And this is the one time it's ever like happened where I was like, got him on camera, rushed there. I lived 30 minutes from my parents. Got there, pull up at the driveway, and I'm like talking to my mom about the buck. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go hunt him. I just saw him. He's on a hot doe, so I bet he's gonna push her in here in this little thicket and bed down right there. And then as I say that, look out the window, and that buck's sitting by the kids' playground that's like 50 yards away on this doe. So I'm like, oh shit. So I throw my clothes on and I sneak down there, get in the stand, and saw like a little buck. And then at last light, I can hear him run through the CRP, bumping or grunting. Bleh, bleh, bleh. And this was at last light. I mean, 3 minutes over shooting light and couldn't see him. He was in the CRP, big
Mm.
10 point. I could see his body, but I wouldn't be able to see through my pin. It was just barely dark enough. So I did that, and then yeah, I just realized that's the spot to be. So I just stayed out more this year until it got good because our property from like Halloween to the 14th is usually the best, or usually about honestly like the 4th, November 4th to Thanksgiving. It's just when the bucks move through there because we get a lot of does. We call it the doe factory. We got fawns every single year on the property. So that's what kind of my goal when I'm hunting the rut is go where the does are. And that's what I did. Climb up in this stand that I've never killed a deer from in 13 years. The stand's been there. The 13 years I've maybe hunted out of it 3 times. In my last 4 sits of the year before I shot him, I sat in that spot just because the wind was good. And then this buck, or the morning I shot this buck behind me, had a little buck come. The wind was in one of those spots where it was like he might get it if he comes from. There's two places he was going to come from. He's either going to stay in the woods or he's going to walk on the CRP. And if he got on the CRP, he was going to hit my wind, but I would shoot him right before he hit the wind. And that's kind of what you got to do for some of these bucks sometimes. And
Yeah.
this little 4 point who's been with the big buck, he was with that buck that I saw the 10 point. He's a satellite buck, like I call him, kind of like elk hunting bull or bulls. They're a little buck. You usually sit around that buck that's on a hot doe a lot of time. He won't get too
Hmm.
close because that buck won't let him a lot of time. But and it depends on the demeanor of the buck. But I saw that buck, so I'm like, oh, that big buck's coming. The little buck comes and hits my ground scent at 10 yards right in front of me. Luckily, he didn't blow. Just scoots back, runs away, and I'm sitting in the stand, and that morning I actually got in late. It was real foggy morning, November 8th, super foggy. So I'm like, I just listened to a podcast where they catch them, the Bucks moving midday, and everybody says that. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go in at 9 o'clock and try to do an all day sit. Never done it in my life. And that buck comes in at like 9:30, something like that, and he runs away, and then I kept hearing stuff behind me. There's a million squirrels. So I'm like, that's a squirrel. I look back, not seeing nothing. Look back, and I was like, that sounds like a deer, though. Kept looking back, not seeing nothing. And it was thick, had some trees behind me. And then I looked back again, and I saw that little buck. He's standing like 5 yards behind me. Somehow snuck right up on me. It was a little foggy, so it was kind of, they weren't crunching as bad as they usually would. And I look right behind him, and then this buck right here I got. That's that buck I had history since 23. He ended up breaking off both sides, which is weird. Never
Oh,
seen
that
that.
is weird.
And he's just a funky looking buck. He's a 6 point, but he's usually an 8 point. He's got a lot of mass. He's 20 inches wide. And then I see him, and he's already at 30 yards, and I see the other doe, and I just know their movement where they usually go. And I got my camera, and it's in a funky spot, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm like, he's gonna walk right there. I'm filming him for a minute. Then I realized I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to pull my bow back, on my camera arm. So I had to like move the camera arm and tuck it back so I can tuck it against the tree. And then this buck walks out, the doe goes, and he's trailing 25 yards, 30 yards behind her. They're just cruising, crunching on some acorns, and he's about to walk through my shooting lane. There's one shooting lane, and then he's gone out of my life forever. And I stop him, which is wild. This like I got this all on video too. It's on my YouTube. And I stop him just so he didn't go through that shooting lane because I didn't have time to draw. He started doing this little trot like they do to catch up with the doe. And I
Yeah.
stop, and luckily he's just looking around, and that little buck's right below me. So I think he thought it was him, and he's kind of looking. So then I get drawn, and he's just looking right beyond me. Somehow he doesn't see me this whole time. I'm in a big old oak tree, and I draw back, and then I get ready. Had that camera sitting in the right spot. It's the best footage I've got. It's like zoomed in. Usually I'm kind of zoomed out a little bit, so I
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure I
yeah.
get the shot on film. But I knew he was gonna walk right through this one spot, and luckily stopped him. And his buck was quartering towards me so hard. And luckily, I was like, just slide it by that shoulder. I was like, it's either going to be an amazing shot or it's not. And I shot, and I thought I shoulder punched him. I thought I did for sure. And then I started watching the video, and my camera's dying. So I recorded on my phone, sent it to a few buddies. And Austin from Big K, he used to be on the Whitetail Bloodline. And I called him, and I sent him a video. I'm like, what do you think, dude? I'm freaking out just because I hadn't even shot at a buck in like 2, 3 years. So I'm freaking out. And I'm not one of those people. I try not to get too excited right in the moment, unless I know I smoke him and wasn't sure about it. And then he's like, dude, that's a dead deer, Gavin, because it went to the fletches. So shot that buck, go back to the house after calling him. He got my hopes up a little bit more and watched the video a bunch more on my phone, zooming in. I was like, yeah, I went to the fletches. I was like, it had to have punched some of his lung. And didn't even go look for blood, called my buddy. We go look for blood. It was hair right when I shot. And he even told me, I didn't even think about this in the moment, but it was such a high angle, and he was facing me so hard, and it didn't get a pass through because it kind of went through it and clipped his back lung and just stayed in him, like went to that back hip.
Oh
So
man.
he didn't start bleeding at first. So I was freaking out about that because the blood had to rise to come out of that hole before he started bleeding. But once we found blood, he died about 70 yards later, and he was piled up, and I was tickled to death. He's definitely one of the biggest. He's top two for sure, biggest body buck I've ever shot. I only had to drag him about 100 yards, and I was gonna die, dude. I had to take 15 breaks, and
Right.
that's how you realize what shape you're in is when you start dragging a buck, man. I'll tell you that.
Oh, for sure. That's probably the nicest thing about where I live and I get to hunt is it's so flat, it's so wide open. I mean the buck I shot this year, I drove right up to it,
Yeah,
which
yeah. We
was
usually have to
nice.
drag them a little bit, but we do the same. I'll drive right through CRP not to have to drag a buck. I ain't in as good a
What's
shape as I once was.
oh, me either. What's a mistake you think people make when they come to Indiana and hunt in public, like a non-resident?
Um, I don't think most guys are walking far enough, and sometimes you don't have to because I got a honey hole in some Indiana public where it's close, man. It's like a quarter mile away, but it's just overlooked. I think that's what people need to look for is these overlooked spots. Like every place I hunt, I'm not the best public land hunter. I've had some success and I've got on some big bucks and stuff. But you can walk real far. Don't get me wrong. You'll get on some bucks around where I'm at, dude. There's tens of thousands of acres. There's the Hoosier National, and then there's the
Yeah.
Clark County, and a bunch of stuff that goes all the way up 65. Looking at those don't overlook spots, but kind of put some boots on the ground, and I don't know. It's just For me, I've hunted long enough, and when you see a bucky area or you see something, you just kind of know, and you like get a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would suggest: bring a cell camera with you anywhere you go. Always have a cell camera if you're on that public land and you see some good sign. Throw that cell camera up, and then don't overthink it. Sometimes, man, I think people overthink it a little bit too much. And do your e-scouting. I do a lot of e-scouting. It's a huge thing. You can look at little pinch points. Like that's my style of hunting. I find a pitch point if it's two small ridges that come together, a creek crossing. I like walking down creek crossings, find where they're creek crossing. And like I said, I'm a rut guy. I want to get better at the early October, the October lull. I think in October lull, you just got to get right up on them. I want to get
Right.
better about that because they're just not moving far. Acorns are falling. You got to find where they can get a drink of water, some acorns or whatever food source it is. And uh, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just boots on the ground does a lot too, man. I would say do that. Do your off season scouting for if you come to Indiana. Come try to scout it a few times before season comes, and then it'll just make you feel that much better once you get signed. And then hunt fresh sign. I would say is the best thing I've learned for the public land is hunt your fresh sign and just scout your butt off e-scouting too. You can learn a lot from e-scouting, and then don't be afraid to ask people stuff, man. Social media. There's a lot of people that are good public land hunters, and most of them will help you out when they can too.
I feel like the biggest mistake they make is just being complacent. Like, well, I've
Yeah.
hunted this spot for 4 or 5 days now, and I ain't seen a whole move. You know,
Yeah.
you go someplace else.
Yep, I've gotten complacent because you get some big bucks on camera throughout the years.
Right.
Like he's gonna come through it at some point, but maybe you should just move. Don't be afraid to move. And I would say going mobile. Mobile is a lot easier than it used to be. You don't have to hug around that summit climber like you used to. Like I'm gonna get some lone wolf stuff this year. I've used some hang-ons throughout the years and stuff, but I would say go mobile and don't be afraid. Like you say, don't get complacent. That's honestly, I would say the same thing. And one tip I would say is get out of your comfort zone. If it's going mobile, if it's hunting some public land this year, if it's scouting a little farther, scouting the off season more, walking a little farther, I would say getting out of your comfort zone. You'll learn the most when you get out of that comfort zone.
For
Teaches you a
sure.
lot.
Absolutely. Well, buddy, I won't take up too much of your time, and I honestly don't want to dive into any more because I want to have you back on.
Yep, yep.
Good conversation, and there's a ton I feel like people can learn from you and I on hunting Indiana, or trying to put it together for an out of state hunt or something like that. So we'll definitely
Yep.
have you back on, man.
Yep, I appreciate it. I'd love to come back on, maybe talk a little bit about some more of the land management side, because this year I'm going to dive into the public land hard again. The past few years, I've been managing this property 13 years, learned a lot from that. But I truly appreciate you, man. It was great getting back on a podcast. Haven't recorded one of my own in a long time. It's always nice talking to a fellow whitetail enthusiast. So
Oh, for
appreciate you a lot,
sure.
brother.
Absolutely. Tell everybody where they can find you in Whitetail Bloodline.
Yep, you can search Whitetail Bloodline. I'm the most active on Instagram. I'm gonna try to get better about the YouTube again this year, but you just search Whitetail Bloodline. I got a Whitetail Bloodline podcast on all your major platforms other than YouTube. Maybe in the future I'll put it on YouTube, but Apple and Spotify, you can find my podcast there. There's no recent episodes, but I got over 100 episodes. Got some straight killers on there. Instagram, TikTok. I hate TikTok, but I still do it.
All right.
And then YouTube, Whitetail Bloodline, you can find my stuff. My YouTube's a little bit more of my longer videos if you want to see the buck I shot this year. Or you can see my first bow kill on 2014, and then my first Indiana bucks on there too when I was like 2013 or 12 or something. So got all that, and appreciate you a lot, brother, man. It was a great time talking to you.
Absolutely. For everybody in podcast land, give us a rate and review. Go check the Whitetail Bloodline podcast out. Give it a rate and review. Go check everything out. But appreciate everybody listening this week. We'll see you again next week. Actually, this is our last whitetail episode or bow hunting. Well, not necessarily bow hunting. Whitetail episode for
Yep.
probably a month and a half, maybe 2 months ish, somewhere right in there, maybe even 3. Spring Thunder's coming back. Already got a ton of guests lined up. It's going to be another great spring. So we'll see everybody next week for episode 145. See you.